Hello and welcome to the Dailies. Most international media remained centered on the Gaza ceasefire, highlighting the emotional return of hostages and release of Palestinian prisoners. Coverage emphasized both the humanitarian impact and the political stakes of the deal. In the US, however, domestic stories shared the spotlight. President Trump's escalating trade war with China dominated economic headlines, with analysts warning of global ripple effects. Meanwhile, media organizers united in fierce opposition to the Pentagon's new press access rules, framing the policy as a threat to press freedom and government transparency. We'll start with Israeli media, as many outlets reported on Donald Trump's hardline message to Hamas after the ceasefire deal. The Times of Israel highlighted how, speaking at the White House, Trump warned that if Hamas fails to disarm as promised, we will disarm them, perhaps violently, he said. He also accused the group of misrepresentation or misrepresenting the number of hostage bodies and stressed that the job is not done until all are returned. The report notes Trump declared phase 2 of the peace plan underway, focusing on Gaza's reconstruction and security under international oversight. His comments underscored both Washington's leverage and growing impatience. The piece also notes Hamas's violent crackdown on alleged collaborators since the ceasefire, revealing the fragile and volatile reality behind Trump's push to enforce the agreement. In its analysis, the Jerusalem Post highlights the fragile state of the Gaza ceasefire following the release of 20 Israeli hostages. While the transfer marks a symbolic milestone, the deal's second phase, which is returning the remains of 28 hostages and addressing disarmament, faces major obstacles. The peace cites reports suggest Hamas is willing or unwilling, rather, to surrender its weapons, a key clause in Donald Trump's peace plan. Only 8 bodies have been returned so far, and the International Committee of the Red Cross warned that retrieving the rest is a huge challenge. The analysis highlights that the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, where over 20 world leaders endorsed Trump's proposal, with Abdel Fattah al-Sisi calling it the last chance for peace. Yet it also cites analysts who caution the current calm is procedural and not lasting. The piece concludes key Hamas issues, Hamas disarmament, Rafah crossing, and Palestinian political divisions threaten indeed to derail the progress. Sagit Fishman wrote in Hearts, exploring an unexpected and emotionally charged moment during the Gaza ceasefire. Direct video calls between Hamas and the families of Israeli hostages. The article explains that instead of a staged public display, Hamas militants allowed hostages to speak directly with their relatives, bypassing mediators and diplomatic channels. The author argues this was more than a tactical move. It symbolically acknowledged the humanity of the other side. Fishman goes on to say that for years, dehumanization has shaped Israeli-Palestinian perceptions, making conflict more entrenched. These phone calls cracked the wall, however briefly. Though calculated, Hamas's gesture forced both sides to see individuals, not abstractions. And the piece suggests these small cracks in mutual dehumanization won't bring peace immediately, but they do reveal that human connection persists even in war's darkest moments. Palestinian media continue to shed the light on the humanitarian scene in Gaza after the ceasefire. Some reported on the last rounds of violence in Gaza that led to tens being killed. Al-Quds examined the stark divide between Donald Trump and the Palestinian Authority regarding Hamas's recent executions of alleged Israeli collaborators in Gaza. During a meeting, Trump downplayed the executions, describing them as a removal of very bad gangs. In contrast, the Palestinian presidency strongly condemned the actions as horrific crimes, accusing Hamas of violating human rights and undermining the rule of law. The report highlights the conflicting statements, saying they both provoked intense social media debate as many users criticized Western double standards and the Palestinian Authority's silence on Israeli attacks. Others viewed Trump's comments as admiration for displays of power rather than support for Hamas. The piece underscores how this issue exposes competing narratives of justice, resistance, and authority in the conflict. American media also kept an eye on the developments in the Middle East. Newsweek highlights how Donald Trump's approval ratings rose modestly in the wake of the Gaza peace deal. According to the report, national polls, including those from Morning Consult, Rasmussen, RMG Research, and Newsweek, show a small but clear uptick, reflecting a positive public response to Trump's role as a chief negotiator. The graph also visually tracks Trump's net approval from early to mid-October. It shows a steady climb after the October 9th ceasefire announcement, and Morning Consult up 3 points to +8, Rasmussen narrowing from -10 to -7, and smaller gains across other trackers. The piece also notes that while this bump strengthens Trump's image ahead of the 2026 midterms, the ceasefire remains fragile. The New York Times asked why the president of FIFA was at the Gaza summit. The Times examines the unusual presence of Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA, at the Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt, an event far removed from soccer. Invited by Donald Trump, Infantino stood alongside world leaders, promising to help rebuild Gaza's sports facilities. The piece contends that his attendance reflects his increasingly close relationship with Donald Trump, which, of course, dates back to the Abraham Accords and Trump's first term, when the U.S. won hosting rights for the 2026 World Cup. The analysis also cites critics who argue Infantino's growing political alignment undermines FIFA's neutrality. Human rights advocates called his presence deeply troubling, and the piece points out that unlike other global sports leaders, Infantino frequently appears at political events and has cultivated ties with powerful, often controversial figures, blurring the line between sports, diplomacy, and politics. Other stories shared the limelight in America. Trump's escalating trade war with China, and the Wall Street Journal details how Xi Jinping is taking a hardline stance in the US-China trade conflict, betting that Donald Trump's focus on stock market performance will force him to back down before escalating tariffs. The piece explains that Beijing has tightened export controls on rare earth minerals and also sanctioned a US-linked shipping company, triggering sharp market reactions. Now, while the US's economy shows signs of strain, the Chinese president faces less political pressure at home, giving China, of course, more leverage. Trump has alternated between combative rhetoric and calls for negotiation, insisting the U.S. economy is strong. And analysts say China's strategy hinges on Trump folding, as in past tariff disputes. The piece concludes attention now turns to the expected Trump-Xi Jinping summit in South Korea, where both sides may seek to de-escalate without major breakthroughs. In the US, also, the media, including Fox News, overwhelmingly rejected Pentagon press policy. The Washington Post reported on a rare moment of unity across US media. Major networks, including Fox News, ABC News, CBS News, NBC News, and also CNN, refused to sign the United States Department of Defense's new press policy, calling it a threat to press freedom. The rules restrict journalists from independently seeking information and allow the Pentagon to revoke credentials from those who don't comply. The piece clarifies that the pushback spans the political spectrum, with both mainstream and conservative outlets rejecting the policy, leaving only one America news network in support. The move means that for the first time since 1943, no major outlets will be accredited to cover the Pentagon. Reporters expressed frustration but vowed to continue their work outside official channels. Axios details Donald Trump's public outburst over a new Time magazine cover tied to his Gaza peace deal. The November 10 issue, titled His Triumph, praised Trump's diplomatic achievement, but drew his anger for what he called the worst of all time photo. Let's have a look at the photo. It is over here. The report, of course, explains how he mocked the image on Truth Social, claiming it distorted his hair and gave him a tiny floating crown. The report draws a comparison between how the inside of the magazine article portrays the Gaza ceasefire as a major moment in Trump's second term, but the cover itself became a flashpoint. Russia's foreign ministry echoed Trump's criticism, calling the image astonishing, while California Governor Gavin Newsom mocked it online. The controversy reflects Trump's ongoing sensitivity to personal image, even amid landmark diplomatic moves. And we'll end with Le Monde, which published a special report explaining France's deep political crisis. The explainer breaks down how, since Emmanuel Macron's party lost its majority in 2022 and 2024, Parliament has been split into three rival blocs. Two prime ministers, François Bayrou and Sébastien Lecornu, fell amid fights over debt, spending cuts and unpopular reforms. Lecornu returned as prime minister but leads a weak minority. The piece also includes a chart that shows party positions. As we can see over here, left-wing parties want to oust him. Centrists want stability, and Rassemblement nationals want new elections. Now, the main conflicts are budget cuts, pension reforms, and the use of Article 49.3, which is a tool seen as undemocratic. The piece highlights that no bloc holds enough power, leaving France stuck in a fragile, divided political landscape. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.